It Takes Two, Amy Eiler, JJ Gordon on the Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The mechanics are in. The pros from Johnson's. Oh, boy. Okay, Chris, let me ask you right off the bat here. What are people coming in and asking for these days?
Oh, nowadays, looking more on like the maintenance side of things, like intermittent no starts. We got the cold weather, the heating issues and stuff like that. So inspecting for coolant leaks, doing battery tests, making sure connections and everything are good and tight. And then obviously, too, we're still in the winter season, right? So I think it's dark more than it's light out. So we're doing good light checks, make sure headlights are working, stuff like that.
I got a question right off the bat. I got a new vehicle. And I don't think the heated steering wheel is working. I don't know. I've never had a heated steering wheel. So I was like, it's not a big deal. Who cares? Let's just leave it and it doesn't work. And JJ's like, no, it'll change your life.
Yeah, once you get it, you can never go back.
I've never had one. So will it change my life? I don't know. But number two, what kind of a fix is that? Really complicated, expensive? Give me the bad or good news.
Well, the first off, once you get it working again, you're not going to want to live without it.
I know. I'm scared.
Everybody that has it says that they love it. Two, it might not be that bad. We do a couple checks to make sure, obviously, you're getting power to it. And there's usually probably a couple connectors along the way. If that's all checking out good, sometimes the heating element in that steering wheel opens up, and then something like that, you'd be looking at a possible steering wheel replacement. But
what? Once
you get it working, you're not going to want to live without it.
Steering wheel replacement? This is getting dramatic.
Yeah, the heating element's actually built into that and wrapped in the padding and the leather that's stitched around it. So, we're not really sewing and stitching in new elements a lot. So then you end up getting a new steering wheel. But once it starts working, you won't want to live without it.
What's a new steering wheel cost?
It can vary.
This is the bad side of things.
Yeah, this is, I would say, and this is just off the top of my head, but you're probably looking anywhere from $250 to $700 just for the steering wheel. And that's kind of a wide range, but every manufacturer's, they have different pride levels for their parts. So we'll leave it at that. But
man, okay.
How often do you find yourself swapping out a steering wheel?
Surprisingly, not too often. How about you, Dennis?
Yeah,
I mean,
not very often at all, no.
But that's the worst case scenario. It could be something else, right?
Right.
Steering wheel replacement, that was worst case scenario?
That'd be worst case scenario. I mean, otherwise, chances you might have a little testing time into. The biggest thing we'd pull, if you bring it to your trusted shop, they'd pull up a schematic and then look along the lines, and make sure you have your power and your ground circuit, from your power distribution box up to your steering wheel. And if all that's working, you can kind of basically do what they call a continuity test to make sure there's not like an open circuit in your steering wheel. And if there isn't, then we know the steering wheel's good, then kind of go from there. And if there is, well, then we know that there's an open in the heating element not completing the circuit, and then you need a steering wheel. So
okay. Amy just doesn't even have her heated steering wheel turned on, someone said.
And that could be it too,
that could be it. That could be it.
What,
I don't
know. Can I ask
know.
you one question? What year is it? Is it like a brand new one, or is it new to you?
New to me. New to me. 2017.
Okay, so there probably is an issue with that. There's one thing I was going to, if you had a newer GM or newer vehicles, some of them, they're equipped with it, but due to the part shortage at one time, they might leave that module out for a while. So everything's there for it, but it needs to be retrofitted when the parts become available. So.
Someone said, "Oh, Amy, get it fixed and throw away your gloves. I haven't purchased gloves since 2019."
Yeah, so you're going to like it.
I'm scared to even get it fixed because then I'm going to be like these guys I work with who are like, "I could never live without it." And I was like, we lived without it for a long time. I think we're doing just fine. But
but you know what? We also used to use outhouses, and I don't see you going back to those at all anytime soon.
Okay. Someone says, when a pre-owned vehicle is certified, what does that mean?
I would say it probably, goes through your trusted mechanic and does a complete vehicle inspection on it, tests to see if it's roadworthy.
When it's certified, it means it's certified by the dealership that's selling it, so their mechanics went through it. Is that what that means?
Sometimes that's what that means as well. And then depending what dealership, they'll provide an extended warranty if it meets certain criteria. And obviously, that'll probably be figured into the price, and you're probably going to pay a little more. But if they certify them, usually they're only a year or two old, I think, from my experience, maybe like a lease turn in, and they inspect them at the dealer and kind of extend the warranty for a certain period of time. Don't you think so, Dennis?
Yeah, I believe that's what it is. Yeah.
People ever call you about your extended warranty on your vehicles? Try to get you buy into
the
those,
robocalls? Yeah.
Don't take those phone calls. This is an interesting question, you guys. It says, which vehicles are the easiest and most economical to work on? What vehicles are the easiest and most economical to work on? That's an interesting question.
Well, now the easiest, every technician you talk to is going to think one's easier than the other. As far as reliability, some cars like the Toyota Camry and stuff like that, as far in Honda Accords, like if you do their maintenance, I don't really see a lot of huge major repairs outside of, wear and tear items, kind of like brakes and, suspension components and stuff like that occasionally. I mean, how about you, Dennis? What are you thinking on that?
Yeah. I was thinking about the same thing.
Easiest to work on? What's your easiest to work on? I know that might be, like you said, that's a really subjective question to the person. It's probably whatever vehicle that mechanic has worked on the most, I would assume, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Say if you're a GM mechanic,
Right.
I think
GMs are going to
GMs
be
are
easy to work
easiest,
on
yeah.
because you've worked on before.
You're used to them,
so-
but
Yeah.
even vehicles that you've worked on forever too up here, if it's not washed or maintained properly, you're one rusty fastener bolt away from it not being your favorite car or
Yeah.
easy to fix anymore.
Exactly.
Let me ask about
Yeah.
the air, because at one point we switched over to where you've got more computer data than ever before in vehicles
Absolutely.
today, right? But you're also dealing with computer issues now more than ever, right? Was there a sweet spot before we relied so much on having, these computers and screens and everything in our car versus, like going back to like a VW Bug someone bought for Y2K because it didn't have a computer component in it? Like, are we just much better today, or did we maybe hit the peak a little bit?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. The problem what we're seeing with the older ones, though, with the computer stuff, though, I think, and Dennis, you probably can agree on that, is the fact that if they get some age on there and like certain seals, right, and just kind of the exterior, the interior kind of degrade on there, you leave chances for moisture, water intrusion, element intrusion to get in there, and that's mostly what we see with that. If it's just not maintained. Most people don't realize your automobile is the most sophisticated and advanced technological piece of equipment you're going to own. What do you think on that, Dennis? I mean, it's good and bad.
Yeah. I worked on a lot of the older stuff in my day and seen a lot of computers, but I think they've come a long ways now with your new data links and everything. I believe they're a lot easier to work on now than they used to be. Say an old 80 Chevy truck that they threw a computer in, trying to figure out problems with that thing was like they didn't have the technology they do now. You know? I think it's come a long ways. I think it makes it easier for us to diagnose with a good scan tool.
I'm even amazed in vehicles today that I see a USB port in it, and I go, oh,
Right.
I know that this vehicle's at least 3 years old because they're now putting USB-C ports into it instead. And so you can see that. This is a 2022 Chevy Silverado, 10,000 miles, just went in for an oil change at my dealer, and they tried to pressure me in getting a higher tier oil change with all these additives, saying it'll give me more power, better mileage. Is all of that extra stuff necessary? It's pretty much a brand new vehicle.
What a lot of them I know are trying to do lately with their additive package is they want to start you, and every dealership's different. So, don't take this as, gospel, but when you start with these additive packages earlier, when your factory warranty expires, as long as you still own the vehicle, they're going to be extending the warranty as long as you basically jump through their hoops and put this additive in there. So if you plan on keeping the vehicle for a while, it is a great added protection. Two, I do not like going 10,000 miles even on a new vehicle with synthetic oil. I would only recommend 5,000 to 6,000. So it is still completely up to you as a consumer, but if you plan on keeping it, some people buy their brand new pickup and like, I've never had a brand new pickup, I want to buy one and keep one. Then I would recommend looking into that additives and keeping very accurate service records, because in the long run, I think that's going to help you out as far as less cost out of your pocket, an extra 20 or 30 bucks on an oil change. And if something unforeseen happens, but your normal warranty were to run out, but whatever additive package you have you on is going to extend that warranty, it's definitely going to be beneficial for your pocketbook on that side of it.
Let me talk service records with you just for a second here. So I just had my oil change recently, and the dealership handed me the paperwork, and I went home and I threw it in the garbage immediately because I just don't need that cluttering up my desk. But then I realized, like, other than the dealership, I'm the only person who has any idea of how long this has been in. Now, that computer in the car will track some of that stuff, right? Like, it'll say the last time it was reset. Is that right?
The newer ones. How about your
Yeah.
new pickup there, Dennis? Sometimes the OnStar records will let you know like what
Oh,
trouble
really?
code's set, but they're not necessarily going to tell you if you went in and got it fixed. Everything is so much internet based now.
Yeah, I think once it's reset, it's gone.
It's gone.
You know.
So what
So-
should I be doing? Should I keep a folder in the back of my car? Should I be scanning this stuff and saving it? I mean, what's beneficial to me?
It's a good idea to keep your records because, say if, you got a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty and your engine goes out and, 36,500, and they're going to say, well, it's kind of hard for us to cover that under warranty. You got records, and you can show them all your oil changes, and you're really loyal to that. They might go the extra mile and just help you out.
Gosh, I would hope so. 500 miles doesn't seem like a lot to be over the warranty.
But they stick to it sometimes too, and but just tell them I took really good care of this, and this is how it is.
Okay, let's get back to the text club here and take a gander at some of these. Okay, so someone says, what is the expected miles from today's newer cars? I think we have touched on this before of like you can see some pretty high mileage on vehicles being produced nowadays as long as you take good care of it.
Right. It all does come down to maintenance. There's people that think sometimes that all you have to do is put gas in there, and unfortunately that's not it. There's no maintenance schedule to predict leaks and fluid conditions due to our severe climates. I mean, wouldn't you agree on that, Dennis?
Yeah, I have one of my customers that came in. He's got like an 03 Silverado with a Duramax diesel, and he wanted to quit working on it at 500,000 miles. So he said, well, it's still going. Why don't we just keep going? And now he's got like 600,000,
600,000 miles?
Yeah,
Correct.
on this truck.
And it's still going.
Yeah, he was going to park it out in his pasture and just use it as an ornament.
Yeah.
And it's like it won't stop. So he keeps on putting money into it.
I remember the days where you'd look in the back of like Auto Trader, and if something had 80,000 miles, you're like, oh, she's out to pasture already. No point in buying that unless I need to, have a homecoming vehicle or something.
Yeah.
600,000 miles.
It's unreal.
Let me know when he hits 700.
Wow.
Right, yeah.
In all honesty, I think the dealership should probably send him like a cake.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
And you said an 03?
Yeah, it was an 03.
So
yeah.
we're not even talking about a vehicle that's 40 years old. We're talking about something that is considered part of the modern world, right?
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah. And some of the other ones too. I don't know.
I mean, 150 to 250,000 is not uncommon anymore.
Yeah.
And it comes down to maintenance. It's like a couple $300 to change certain fluids, and that definitely is a lot better than spending $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 or getting rid of it. When something major breaks down.
So let me ask you a question about that. So give me some ideas. If someone buys a new car off the lot, right? And so they say, okay, well, listen, you've hit 30,000 miles. You need to do a transmission fluid exchange. I mean, you can find. Should you be going just on what the book says in your car, or should you be trusting a dealership? I mean, you Google a question like that, and you can get 9 different answers.
Right. Fluid condition, kind of like a visual, and your trusted mechanic should be able to tell if it's burnt or not. And then depending what you use your vehicle for, if you do a lot of towing, in-town stop and go driving. That's harder on your fluid too. So a lot of owners' manuals are going to say like a recommended interval, or they're going to say, oh, it's sealed for life. But then there'll be a little like asterisk by it under severe climates, and we live in a severe climate. Then there's definitely, an interval change. If your pickup gets used a lot, I would say every 50,000 miles, would be a good kind of, I would say, interval change for like a transmission fluid and filter. And it just depends what you use it for again. I mean, it's a lot cheaper to change your fluid here, every few years than it is to, unfortunately put a whole brand new transmission or engine in,
Yeah.
Chris and Dennis taking your questions. Okay, back to our text club. We have I don't even know where we're at.
We got to get
We
this
got
one.
through.
Can you get more heat out of a car if the vent is set to cabin circulation? Which is a very winter question to ask. So rather than like pulling air from outside versus recirculating, like can you get a hotter temperature?
It'll keep it it'll recoup it probably quicker. It's the same thing as like your air conditioning in the summer. When it closes off the outside air, you're basically recirculating that interior air. So yeah, once it's warmer, it'll kind of stay warmer quicker. I don't know if you'll get hotter per se. If you're noticing, like your heater performance drop out a little bit, it might be something you want to get looked at. But I think it'll definitely achieve that temperature quicker. What do you think, Dennis?
Yeah, it's nice to have that fresh air coming in too, because you're breathing all that cabin air. But
Unless
you could
you're
try
like in
it
an
both
area with a
ways.
skunk, and then
Yeah.
in case you've swapped it over
Yeah,
already.
there you go.
Exactly. Yeah. You could try it both ways just to see how it is too. Sometimes you got a little thermometer, you can just stick it in the vents and just watch temperature.
I have seen people pick those up like at car part stores and Amazon, like getting that little tiny like temperature gauge just to see what you're getting.
Yep.
And it's a good thing to kind of say like, yeah, I know people with older ovens in their kitchens who do the same thing, who say like, okay, listen, the knob says 400, but I'm really only getting like 325.
Right.
So getting those out. Do trucks that have had a snowplow attached generally have more front end issues?
Well, that's a lot of weight up front, and they're wearing on ball joints and all the front end suspension, and it definitely takes a toll on them. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I definitely, especially if you see like a half-ton truck, I always get a little leery when somebody, because you don't know how big of a plow they had hanging on up front. If you got a 3/4 ton or 1 ton, some of those are more made for having a heavier load on there. But yeah, without a doubt, anytime you see something like that on there, they got used a little harder. It's always a good idea to have your suspension checked, brakes checked, wheel bearings, stuff like that. Make sure there's no excessive play in there.
Yeah, and then transmission issues too.
Yeah.
It's really hard on the transmission and differentials.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Especially the transmission, back and forth, back and forth. Yeah. You're not really giving. You get the big plow on the front. You're not really giving the air a chance to move across that tranny cooler and radiator to kind of help cool the fluid more. So,
this is for a 2016 Toyota Tacoma. Front brakes and rotors have been replaced twice. Needs work again. Only 53,500 miles. Serviced every 5,000 miles.
I would probably take a look at the rear brakes to see if they're working right. You shouldn't be putting too much of a load on the front that would be wearing them out that quick. So if they're drum brakes, they probably need to be adjusted up. That was a 16?
Yep.
So it might be disc.
Might be disc, and it just doesn't seem like the rears are doing their job.
Yeah.
I would have
putting all the load then on the front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, or depending on the brake pads that were put in there, there's also different quality per se material. Some wear out quicker than others too, and then it's important too. I always recommend, some people still kind of 2-foot drive, so they always have like a foot kind of lightly applied on their brake pedal. You kind of want to stay away from that too. That'll prematurely wear things out. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, or if the tires are too big, it takes a lot more to stop a big tire than it does a little tire. So oversized tires will eat up brakes like you wouldn't believe.
And that seemed to be a big trend for a while too. People
Right.
wanting those oversized tires.
Something like that, I'd get a second opinion at if you're, if you've taken it somewhere for a while. Look up another shop and just get a second opinion on there. Have things looked over really well. Kind of explain what's been going on, mileage intervals that the brakes have been done, so you can get more of kind of a thorough, accurate inspection on that. So,
Did we get to this pulling a trailer better question?
No.
Can the mechanics set a pickup for pulling a trailer better? It seems like when a trailer is hitched, even empty, it is different. I mean, in the computer settings, could they be set up differently?
not really in the computer. What do you think, Dennis? I mean, there's a trailer brake module, but that's just kind of to help apply or not apply, basically, the trailer brakes depending on the load you have.
Yeah. When you set your tow haul button, it shifts different. I know it sets the transmission up for different shifting, if that's what they're asking. Or
Okay. Well, if you need more clarification, text back 35270. Let us know if we answered that question properly. Someone said, what is the deal with actuators that change heat and cold? Have a new Silverado, 6,000 miles, and it went out.
Yeah, there's what they call mode and temperature door actuators. Everything on that HVAC housing behind your dash is electronically controlled. So there's essentially a little motor, and it basically pulses current to them one way or the other, and then it moves a door. So there's no more like actual mechanical or cable linkage to them anymore. There's basically like a little motor with a detent that comes out. And yeah, sometimes those motors, the gears in them either strip out or they can just electrically become open. So when it's receiving a command, it's not doing anything. So kind of a common issue on some of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about this? This is this is an interesting one. We're talking about water pooling up. It's a Nissan Rogue on the driver's side floor. Water pooled up. I took a shop vac, sucked it up. An hour later, I hadn't moved the car. No rain. It's parked, but the puddle of water returned, parked in a garage. What should I be worried about? Oh, boy.
Well,
Oh, that almost sounds like it has a sunroof, huh? Does the sunroof drains plugged on that? That, or if it's been parked in the garage for a while. You know, there's little channels if that vehicle has a sunroof, and if it's ever been parked outside and has like tree debris and stuff, it'll plug up basically the sunroof drains, and then has to go somewhere, right? Sort of run down your pillars and kind of pool up at the bottom there.
yeah, either that or their AC units plugged.
Yeah.
And
Yep, that'd be another
is
good
this,
one.
In like the summertime, the AC unit has to drain like all that water that comes out underneath
Mm-hmm.
your car. And if that drain is plugged, it'll fill the dash up with water, like gallons of water.
Really?
Yeah, and it'll just start pooling out and fill up your floorboards. It's unreal.
Oh, boy.
When we clean them vents out, we could get like drowned because it's like
Yeah.
3 gallons of water that come out of there.
Is that what
Spray-
the new guy goes underneath there and like, just poke that
Yeah.
tube a little bit?
Exactly. Yeah.
I've had that happen to me a couple times. You get a mouthful of that just kind of musty water. It's a treat.
We call that
No.
we call it initiation to the shop.
Yeah, you bet.
Back to your questions here. The mechanics are in on KFGO. Chris and Dennis from Johnson's Auto Repair taking your questions. Someone says, my son has a 2000 Chevy Malibu. In the past 2 years, we've had to replace the brake calipers and pads twice because the calipers kept seizing up. He thinks it's happening again. Any reason why? That's
Well, that's an older one, so
Right.
I might as well take that.
You could take that one, Dennis.
Yeah.
I got faith in you.
is that
You know-
is that your job to take the older ones?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this one's 23 years old, 24
Yeah.
almost. How do you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm highly educated in them.
Okay.
Over the years, I've seen anti-lock brake pumps just apply pressure to the brakes and just do it all by themselves and just wear brakes premature. So it's either that or, you could even have a brake hose that's collapsed inside, letting pressure to the caliper and then not releasing it. Something's holding the brakes on longer than it should. So that's probably something he's going to want to take a look at.
Yeah, something bigger rather than just replacing these again for a
Right.
third time.
Right.
Get to the bigger issue, I guess. If you have a question, you can text into 35270. Did we get all of these? Someone suggests that the seat warmer is the best thing ever
Yeah.
over the. I would
telling you,
agree.
they work in tandem
Okay,
so well.
but
Right.
if you had to pick one, you could only have a steering wheel heater or a seat heater. Which one would you pick?
Steering wheel.
Really?
Yeah. Well, how about Chris?
You know, I don't have a steering wheel heater in my truck, but I've driven them with it, and I think I'd rather have a warm steering wheel. I think because you got your jacket and everything on. in the
Right.
morning.
I'm already layered up. Dennis, how about you?
Yeah, I think the steering wheel because, there's so many times my window was
Wow.
froze and I'm scraping it and I get out and get in my vehicle and my hands are just nice and warm.
Yeah, they're so
It's
super
nothing
toasty.
better.
Prevents you from
Hey,
doing the
okay,
whole blow in
fine,
your
you guys.
hand.
I'll bring my vehicle in. Oh my god.
You'll be glad you did, Amy.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Did we get to this additive one, the 2022 Chevy
Yeah.
Silverado? Okay,
Yep.
we got to that one.
In fact, we're over here. We're to this. It's a 2010 GMC Acadia. There's a loud vacuum leak hissing coming from the valve cover vent tube, and it runs rough. Oh,
That-
boy.
That sounds like if you recently had like an oil change or a service done, there could be like a duct or a PCV duct that kind of basically just slides onto the valve cover and hooks onto that air intake tube between the air cleaner housing and the throttle body. That could have fallen off. There's also one that runs to the upper plenum that goes to the rear valve cover, and that, over time with miles, some of that plastic gets kind of degraded on there. So that could have been knocked off too. So Chances are it's something simple like that. Just kind of do a good visual inspection with the engine cover off, and you should be able to locate your problem.
Is there a permanent fix for late model GM trucks or SUVs gas tank vent lines plugging on gravel roads?
Yeah, there actually is. There's like an updated bulletin where you reroute the vent up to like the brake booster area, and it allows so you don't get all that dirt sucked into your canister and your vent valve. Yeah,
Another good spot they like to reroute them to is like maybe the top of your transmission too. Sometimes if you have some of them vents underneath the hood of your vehicles, they don't like to, advertise that being you have, ignition components and stuff like that. But basically the highest part of your vehicle you can get where it's kind of, secured and you're not going to allow dust and debris to get up there. So.
yeah.
So we were just talking off air about, parking under a cottonwood tree and, trees or the sap that comes down from trees and things like that. You had mentioned underneath your windshield wipers is kind of how the air intake right there.
Yep,
Right.
and that cowl there. Yep.
We're also at an era where, snow and ice accumulates on top of that. Should I be using the back end of my ice scraper to chip that open, or am I going to potentially do worse?
Well, you really should try to keep that clean. Don't break it so you break, the screens and stuff in there. But you should keep that clean because that's your intake.
Keep a good pair of gloves and kind of maybe use your hand to move it out of there before you, because if you let your vehicle run too much and you get water to drip down there, it's going to kind of turn into a sheet of ice. It's going to refreeze. So try to clean it off, I guess, before you drive it.
I see so many people who take off and don't bother to scrape anything off the hood of their car or anything like that. And I always think, well, a glacier's not a great thing to be moving across like the front of that car. But do I need to get the whole thing cleared off, or if I get half of it, am I good to,
as far as your windshield and cowl, usually, normally the air intake side of it would be more on like the passenger side of the vehicle. But it's always a good idea, for safety reasons to have all your, your windshield and basically anywhere in your line of sight cleared off. So, the professional recommendation is, take the time and actually have it all cleared off. But, focus kind of, on that passenger side of the cowl to make sure that's kind of cleared off.
Okay. This texter says, I have a 2012 Jeep Liberty Latitude. Oil pan is all rusty and leaking oil. Broke off a lot of rust on the pan, and the oil is seeping out on garage floor. Just bought the car 10 days ago, and there is a 3,000 mile, 3-month warranty for the engine and transmission. Do you think this will be covered under the warranty? And should I replace it with a factory oil pan or a non-factory oil pan? 41,000 miles.
Well, I would probably recommend doing a factory oil pan. They seem to fit a lot better. Aftermarket parts, especially a tin pan like that, can get distorted and not fit correctly. But sometimes the warranty company gets a little touchy on like conditions, like salt and stuff has eaten up that pan, and they might not cover it. They might say that's wear and tear, but it's the best thing to do is just try it and see if they'll go for it.
I mean, at least go back and have that conversation. Say, I bought this 10 days ago.
Or maybe the actual place will cover it for them for purchasing the vehicle. It sounds like it might be one of those kind of scenarios too. So
there you go. All right. Shout out to Walhalla, North Dakota, by the way, who called up and talked to Dennis. Thanks for listening all the way up there. If people want to get a hold of Johnson's, if they've got a question, if they want to bring a vehicle in, how can they find you guys?
Well, we're 11 blocks north of Menards at 2627 16th Avenue South in Moorhead, and you can always call us at 218-512-0506.
Chris, Dennis, always a pleasure, gents.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.